Good evening. This is Paul Vender with Ridgecrest Talk. We're going to be talking gardening today right here in Ridgecrest. We have some folks in the community who have come together to say we want gardening in public spaces and gardening in our community. And presenting the group today, Dr. Goonesinge, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and tell a little bit about yourself?
Yes. So my name is Goonesinge, and I've been in medical practice here for about, I think, 15 years now. Love Ridgecrest. It's wonderful. The community is so very friendly, and that's the thing that really made me decide to stay here. So that's one of the biggest strengths I have is the community and my patients. I specialize in cardiology and internal medicine, and my medical practice is called Compassionate Doctors. So that's, I think, enough about me.
Right, and that was one of the things that caught me about your building,
Right.
as it said Compassionate Doctors.
Yes,
And
yes.
so, just why did you choose that name, Compassionate Doctors?
Actually, in the past, my parents, they are both physicians, and I'm originally from Sri Lanka. And we used to go on the weekends and do clinics in very remote areas. So from the time I was like 3-4 years of age, I was used to that. And the theme was compassion. So when I got my own practice, I wanted to have something that conveyed what I was about and what our practice was going to be about, being compassionate,
Right.
and caring about the person as a human being and not just some disease.
Right,
and
that's hard to teach. If the doctor doesn't have a good bedside manner, you really have to work with that.
Yeah,
but to have first a passion and then a compassion really makes the world a difference. That you feel comfortable talking about whatever
Right.
the concern is. And so one of the big concerns we have is preventative and eating healthy and gardening.
Exactly.
And so what was the idea? How did that develop?
Yes. So several years ago, I started thinking, we live in the desert. One of the scariest resources is water. And why on earth are we wasting it on growing grass, which we can't eat? So it was at the back of my mind, and I kept thinking, why isn't anybody doing anything about it? And in fact, I mentioned it to a couple of people, but it didn't go anywhere. And then, the whole thing started getting more and more, and then they were talking about droughts, lack of food. At the same time, I went for a conference in another city where it was on obesity, and it's become an epidemic, and all the world leaders were there trying to educate us on how to deal with this. And one of the lecturers said something that really went into my head, which is even the organic produce we get that is produced commercially lacks the nutritions that they used to have, like say in 1930, because in the commercial gardening, they kind of produce the same thing over and over again, and then the soil gets depleted, and it's the soil that we finally eat as a plant. So if that lacks nutrition, obviously there's a problem there as well. So there was the water problem, and here we are putting something that we cannot eat. And also, if we can produce our own, even a little bit, it's a good thing. So I spoke to Mr. Dan Clark, the previous mayor, about it, and I said, can you please start something small? I didn't want something big and then, get into a big headache. So he was very kind enough. He really jumped on in the idea. And then he said, okay, I'll give you a little spot like behind Carnegie Center. Inside the police car park, so we all felt very safe there.
Right, just right on the corner of the City Hall building,
exactly,
basically.
Yes. So that was a great place, and that's how we started the project. And we had a Facebook page called We Love Ridgecrest, where we would talk about community issues. And the moment we just put it there were so many people who wanted to get involved. It was like they were waiting.
Right, they just come out of everywhere as soon as they get an opportunity.
Yes, and so initially, of course, the other person that we really have to mention is Randy Brown. lot of us don't know him, but he works for the city, and he's been there, I think, close to 10-15 years, and he's who makes sure that all our public gardens all over parks and everything is maintained.
Right, he works in the parks as
exactly,
far as landscaping and taking care of the parks.
His knowledge is tremendous, and he bent over backwards to help us, so a big shout out for him, really. He was so helpful, and he still is. So we put together the design, and then you know, he helped us with the initial irrigation, and then you know, one day as we were doing stuff, we got this tiny little rabbit who decided to come and watch us.
Yeah, first when I saw you had a picture of that rabbit, and the person was holding it, but you couldn't see the ears, and at first I thought it was that little gopher from Caddyshack, and I looked at it again, and I said, wait, that's just a little baby rabbit.
Yes,
and because it was in the garden, you were able to catch it.
Yes,
okay.
That's right. And then we realized, okay, we need a fence, otherwise we won't be able to grow anything. So the desert garage door, Terry, was very helpful. He actually, you know, initially we were going to purchase it, but he gave it to us free of charge, which we are very grateful at that time. So everything slowly, so many people donated their time and money to make this happen. So now we had a nice place, and we got the compost free of charge from Lone Pine, and that was a non-for-profit that is run by Julie Fort.
Right.
And her, I think it's called, I keep forgetting her, it's got an unusual name.
I keep going up there and trying to get Julie to come down
Metabolic Studio. Metabolic Studio.
I've been talking to Julie about coming down and talking to us.
Yes,
and,
yes.
I think we're going to get here, but we're going to wait because she also has some cabins up there. That's a beautiful place to stay. And I'm going to try to get her, you know, a little bit during the right tourist time that she can come down and invite everybody.
And
then
so
but Metabolic Studio out of Lone
yes,
Pine with Julie Fott, Jane McDonald, a great group of folks up there.
Amazing and so helpful. You know, at the beginning, it is so important to get the correct people together, and that's a lesson I learned. Bring it down. So many people.
We're going to get ready to go to break.
Okay.
We're talking gardening here in Ridgecrest with Ridgecrest Talk. Dr. Goonesinge is my guest, Paul Vanderwerf, and we're going to come right back and talk about some more gardening right at the City Hall. And welcome back to Ridgecrest Talk. Your host, Paul Vanderwerf, talking with Dr. Goonesinge on a project for community gardening here in Ridgecrest. And I always tell people you can always garden, but the most important word in community garden is the community, is getting involved with the community. And we were just talking with the Lone Pine gardening community. And it's not just the community in Ridgecrest, but it's an extended community. All the communities start talking together. Julie Fott, who is very active in that area. She composts some of the pack mule waste and then makes that manure as a compost available to the community in Lone Pine through their community garden, where if you're in an apartment and you don't have any soil, you can just come right down to the community garden and take some soil home. And she sent some soil down here to Ridgecrest so that you would have some good quality soil to get started.
That's right.
And so that community really is important. And the other point that you mentioned, but it just went so quickly, was what the first thing that struck you was the quality of the food that we're eating from the store, where we're using plants and foods that don't taste as well. They're not the heirloom varieties with the real rich taste. And I think it was Friday, Scott Shacklet, who grows the tomatoes out in Inyokern, I picked up a few tomatoes, and they were so tasty that I didn't even cut them up and put them in anything. I just ate the tomatoes one at a time because they had such a flavor just by themselves.
That's right.
And that's something that, especially kids, all you have to do to sell them on a garden is let them eat some of that food right out of the gallon, out of the garden, and it's just so incredible to them what a full flavor food can have.
That's right.
And so let's kind of get back to what you're talking about. You're bringing how the garden came about. You'd gotten the community came together with the irrigation and the fencing and the soil.
Yeah,
and
that's
what else?
So
happened?
then in the Facebook, two groups came together because now we had to get the seeds. We were able to get the funding for the initial stuff from A Helping Hand and shopsavefeelgood.com, which I'll mention at the end. But so we got non-GMO heirloom seeds, and then we needed to propagate that. And the two groups that came together was Brenda and her star cheerleaders, and then also Jody with the Girl Scouts. So one day we got together at the back of Compassionate Doctors and created a seedling. And I have to mention this, Anna Lynn. She's been the biggest help and the most knowledgeable person that has helped us. And she definitely has green thumbs. I know this for a fact. You see, so we all took the same seeds home. All of us, we were supposed to water it and keep it, nurture it. All our seeds were about, when the plants came up, they were about this high. Hers was about this high. Same seeds. So I never figured that out, but she's very knowledgeable. I think that's what it was. So anyway, we got the seeds and then we planted them. And since then, up until today, she's been so helpful. And her knowledge is immense. So really a big shout out to Anna Lynn for that. Since then, we've had 3 cycles of growth. The military folks, the volunteers, Chief Peter and his team came and helped us to clean it up for the 2nd season. Another group that really helped us was my own staff. Whenever there's nobody else to volunteer, they would come in and fill the gaps. So thank you for Cheryl, who's like my right hand actually. And then Kelly, Selena, Krishna, Bill, all of them, they were so helpful. So in the community, there's been a couple of people, and that's true of any project, and I'm sure you are much aware of that. There's like a couple of folks that create the foundation, and then the others.
Those key people.
Exactly, and Alan and Cheryl are the two. And just now we have Jessica. She has a unique perspective because she's into a thing called Holistic Moms Network. So she believes in organic products. And so she comes with her son all the time. And as you said, that was another part we need to introduce, was to get kids and moms involved. And now more and more moms and kids are coming. And in fact, there's a picture of a little child eating a piece of salad leaf in there, so I'll show it to you.
Right.
So that is like...
And that's how you catch them, is
exactly.
when they're tasting that food.
It is so delicious.
There's so many senior citizens when I'm on the road that will come and talk to me, and they'll talk about that story, either being in the garden when they were a child with their parent, or oftentimes it's with their grandparent.
Right.
And it's one of their best memories is being in grandpa's garden and grandma's garden.
Exactly.
And learning so much at a young age.
Exactly.
That they really are fond of those memories.
Yes. And then the first harvest we had was on Valentine's Day, and it was broccoli. So we made a heart out of broccoli. Wow. And we took it to the senior center, and they really enjoyed it. And in fact, that was the first time I personally had eaten a fresh piece of broccoli, and I had already bought it from the store. Oh my gosh, the taste difference is unbelievable.
Right.
It is
this last Saturday, I had taken my daughter down to a basketball game in Bakersfield, and I was going to the Garden Project, which is a monthly meeting at St. Luke's, which is the Anglican church there in Bakersfield. And on the way, I stopped by the Oleander Garden. It's a community garden on 4th and I. And there's 2 teenagers there. They were seniors in high school, and they were doing, for their government class, they had to do community service. So they were out there waiting for an adult to be there to have them work in the garden and to sign off on their work. And so I got there, I was the first one there, even though I'm not
Right,
as
right.
active as some of the people that
Right,
live in the
right,
neighborhood.
right.
I put them right to work. I started identifying plants and bugs
Right.
and pruning and weeding and all of this information. And it was funny because they really didn't know, like we had a ladybug on one leaf and a ladybug nymph on the other leaf, and they didn't know that that was the same bug. They were
Oh,
guessing, well, we should
wow.
keep the ladybug because that's a good
But
bug,
not the
but we should
bad
kill
guy.
this bug
Oh,
because it's
I
a bad one.
see.
And
Oh,
so
yeah,
it
I
was really
mean,
neat just to see that. I worked maybe 45 minutes and I said, okay, I got to go
right,
over to this
right,
meeting.
right. It is
But it's great to see the whole community come together
exactly,
like that.
exactly. And the other thing I see, and I personally have experienced, is this inner happiness that builds up within you as you touch the soil, as you're staying out there, especially the garden there, you know, at night time. It is so peaceful, and 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 it gives an inner peace that I believe you only get by A, having people around you, and B, working together, you
Right.
know. It is a unique thing, and we have the ability to do that now in a community here. So that's the other part I really want to do, is to start propagating this.
Okay, we've talked about the past, but we're going to talk about the future. But first, we're going to go to a break.
Okay.
This is Paul Vanderwerf with Ridgecrest Talk. We'll be right back.
Okay, I hope.
And welcome back to Ridgecrest Talk, talking about community gardening in Ridgecrest, whether it's the community garden started next to City Hall, or putting a space in the front yard where people can walk by and pick up some vegetables, or even your own backyard garden, getting the community involved. They come out and see it in the community and they say, I'm going to go back home and start my own garden.
Yes.
But we want to know what's coming forward. What's in the plans that we
Yes.
can expect to see this next year?
So one of the things was our community garden next to Kermagee was just to show people we can do it. And we've proven beyond doubt, including, you know, I had doubts about myself, so it is very obvious that we can do it. So that's achieved the biggest goal that we had. Going forward, we want to encourage more people to get together and have community gardens, and we've already initiated one at Saracoso College, Community College, where they are in the beginnings of trying to get that to happen. The second place that's going to happen, and it is happening as we speak, is the preschool kids at Emmanuel. They have raised beds that we will be planting, and the goal is they will go and nurture them, and then they have their own lunches and they'll be eating out of those. So, you know, the produce that is going to be produced there, they will actually have for lunch, which is like the best way to teach kids to do that. The third thing we are going to do is to encourage more and more people to do container gardening, and we've tried it in a couple of places where there is, like, especially low-income moms, giving them already ready-made plants of things they love and try to get them to nurture it and you know, propagate that concept. And then as you quite rightly said, if we can get the kids in there, that is kind of one of the biggest things I want to do, is to get more and more kids involved, and we are seeing that, so this is great. And the final concept is one, and if I may, I would really like all of you all to join in, is called Circle of Love. You know, all of us in all our communities have large amounts of grass in front, and if we can create a little strip just next to the walkway, but create landscaping so that it's called edible landscaping, and we do have a slide on that which I'll show it to you, where it looks beautiful, but as people walk on the pathway, if they need some herb, it's in their own, you know, front yard, in their next door neighbor, and they can just take it from there and share it among the neighbors. So not only are we using some of that, it's edible landscaping, so it looks beautiful. At the same time, it brings the community together, and that to me is very important. So that's the other thing. Finally, I realized that some of these things people don't know how to cook. So somewhere along the line we need to figure some way to educate people, and that's another thing we are working on at this time, like how to, I personally didn't know how to create, like cook Swiss chard. So I had to go online, check some YouTube videos and figure out how to do it.
Well, that's the challenge. All of a sudden you're growing something that you're not cooking.
Exactly.
You know? So
Yes.
I just give it to my wife and say, here, make something. She says, well, what do I do? I've never used this vegetable before.
So the other big thing that I'd like the community get involved is called sharing. We are trying to have a spot possibly next to the Dollar Tree, where every non-flex Friday, if anybody has any excess produce in their garden, they can bring it there and people who need it can come and take it. We did a little test run, it was very successful, but I'm not sure whether they'll allow us to continue to do it. But somewhere in this town, we are going to have a place, and just now it's next to the Dollar Tree, and we are going to have it on every non-flex Friday, and there'll be produce there. If anybody wants, they can come and get it, and that's another thing. And then I have people who started their own little garden. They have too much, and if they do, this is a golden opportunity for them to share it with the rest of the
I was
neighbors.
cutting the greens on my onions last year, and I had so many onions that I could do 5 large bags of greens every day of the week.
See, okay,
and there's no way I could have those.
Exactly.
So I would give them away to anybody I could find. But knowing that there's a plan in the community that I can harvest those on a Friday morning, bring them very fresh, and then have people take those back home is
and
a
that's
great
the last
idea.
thing. So as an invitation, please, we need help with the of course the community garden, but more important for that Flex Friday project, non-Flex Friday project, in the evening is what we thought, you know, the base people can come into, or even like late afternoon. For about an hour, we desperately need volunteers just now, and that's 2 places. The third is the Emmanuel Church, where the preschool. We do need someone to just kind of keep an eye and make sure everything is okay. The initial planting has been done, but the kids will be taking care of it, but it'll be nice to have someone knowledgeable to just keep an eye, so that if things are getting messed up, they can kind of redirect them. That's another
And
place.
here's the key that the communities understand. You start with a passion, then a compassion, and then you get involved. We have a garden club here in the community, and all we need is a parent or a volunteer who has that passion. And you can come to the garden group, you can go to other people in the community, they'll teach you how to take care of it. We also have a community garden with the guides. I think it's the Presbyterian Church.
That's right.
And they have people there that are very knowledgeable also. So I think that's the key, is the community needs to understand is to get involved, all you need to do is say, I want to learn how to do this.
Exactly.
And that's more important than anything else.
Exactly. So the last thing I wanted to do, apart from inviting you all to have your own garden, is that we'll be there to help. Like, you know, we can get you the seeds, we know how to get compost now, containers, all these are there. All you have to say is help me, and we are there to help. And the ways that you can communicate with us is, the best is the Facebook page, which is www.facebook.com/We Love Ridgecrest, all without a space. So that's the best place if you have Facebook, but some folks don't have Facebook.
Right. You have to log in to be able to get to that.
The second thing is ahelpinghand.org, O-R-G. You have to put www, otherwise it doesn't come up. On the contact us page, send us a message and we'll get it, and we'll take care of things too. That's the non-for-profit that helps us with the funding.
All right, we're just running out of time. If you have any more ways to contact, get it in real quick.
Shopsavefeelgood.com. Please, if you are doing any online shopping like Amazon, make sure you use the link there, and the funding will get to us. There is no extra cost to you.
We're all out of time. Thank you so much for coming. Ridgecrest Talk, Paul Van Werf. Have a great evening.
Okay.